Here's some shocking news. AMD Radeon GPUs dominate the Newegg and Amazon best-selling GPU list, leaving NVIDIA in the dust. Is this the end of NVIDIA's gaming GPU monopoly? Welcome back to PC Builder, I'm Jason. We're going to go through some eye-opening data from Newegg and Amazon's best-selling GPU lists during the recent Prime Day sale and see what areas of the market AMD seems to be dominating and where NVIDIA is falling behind. If you get value out of this video, please give a like, of course subscribe for more cool PC content. Let's jump into it. Let's start off by taking a look at the Newegg GPU bestsellers. We'll take a look at Amazon in just a moment, but there is a difference between the two. You're going to see something that just a couple years ago would have been absolutely shocking, which is that AMD is absolutely dominating the top 10 GPU bestsellers. This is right after Prime Day. So these were the best-selling GPUs during Prime Day, and obviously Newegg has their fantastic sale at the same time. I want to start off with Newegg because there is some interesting stuff. Number one, you're like, Jason, well, the number one bestseller was the RTX 5070 MSI Shadow. Why was that? Well, because it was the only NVIDIA GPU to actually hit its MSRP during the sale. $549. It was $50 cheaper than any other RTX 5070. And on top of that, the 5060 Ti 16GB right now, the price was like $550 at the same time. Are you going to buy a 5060 Ti 16GB or are you going to buy a much faster 5070? Despite the VRAM differences on that thing, 12 gigs is still plenty for 1440p gaming. Obviously, you're going to buy this instead, because again, the 5060 Ti 16GB is insanely priced. But here's where things deviate from the normal script of NVIDIA just absolutely dominating GPU sales. The number 2, number 3, and number 5 best-selling GPUs here are all 9060 XT 16GB models. And you're like, Jason, these seem kind of expensive. Now, this is post Prime Day pricing or post Newegg Fantastic pricing. The price for these during the sale was significantly lower. It was $399 and you clicked in, and these were all the different models that they had. They had the Gigabyte Gaming OC, which is the number one seller. They had the Sapphire OC one as well, the Sapphire Pulse. Then they have the ASRock Challenger at, again, $399, and they also had the dual and an XFX model as well that they added later. I'm interested to see that only the top 3 of those, the Gigabyte 9060 XT Gaming OC, the Sapphire Pulse, which I thought was probably the number one popular model, but it's seeming like that may be not the case, and the ASRock Challenger, number 5. Of course, at number 4, we also do have an RTX GPU. That's the RTX 5080, but again, for $1,199. Now, I know it's, insane cheap. No, obviously, the MSRP is $1,000. We all know that. But this is one of the best RTX 5080 deals out there. And this is the Gigabyte Gaming OC one. This is not just kind of a WinForce to it, or MSRP model, I should say. This is a model that they would typically charge probably about $100 more, about 10-15% more than most other RTX 5080s. So this is actually not necessarily that far off where it would normally be. But again, a lot of people flock to this model. Then we jump into number 6, number 7, and number 9. All of those are RX 9070 XT GPUs. Now here's the thing, Newegg actually didn't have the best pricing for 9070 XT GPUs. That was actually Amazon. So we'll see in just a moment where their number one bestseller was. But even with the not most favorable pricing, the Sapphire Pulse was $699. The Sapphire Nitro had a little bit of a discount. I think it was $749 on it. And the 9070 XT ASRock Challenger one did get down to, I believe, $679 with a discount code on it. And then if you look, the rest of the models here were just steeply discounted NVIDIA GPUs. This RTX 5060 Ti MSI one, this is the 8 gig model, number 10. That was actually all the way down in the like $349. It was the cheapest 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte, almost as cheap as the 5060. So why wouldn't you buy that? And this Gigabyte WinForce here, 5070 Ti, was basically coming at $899, and you got a free PSU with a 1000-watt PSU, so it was effectively like $799. It was one of the best deals out there. Jumping over to the Amazon bestsellers, and again, number one spot is the Gigabyte RX 9070 XT OC model. Now the reason for that, and it wasn't necessarily the Reaper that was the cheapest at the time, is that this model actually went on sale before Prime Day even started. It was at $649. You could actually pick up both the Gaming OC and the OC Ice. And that led to the Gigabyte Gaming OC 9070 XT being the number one top seller on Amazon right here, displacing the usual number one bestseller, which is this GPU bracket right here. This thing, if you look at this report, regularly sits in number one spot no matter what. So the fact that this one actually displaced it is pretty crazy. The other one that just kind of shocks me right here is number 2, the 5060 Ti 16GB, the Asus dual model. Now the reason is this was the cheapest available during Prime Day. It was $549, which is not a good price for it. Right now it's up to $575. So looking at this list always leaves me scratching my head. Obviously the Newegg list, you get a little bit more on the tech enthusiast side. At least people know, hey, if you're gonna buy something, get more than 8 gigs of VRAM. And the Power Color Reaper RX 9070 XT was number 4. Now that's for obvious reasons, because for most of Amazon Prime Day, it was the best price that you could get, $649. The gaming OC after Prime Day started bumped up to $679. Still a good price if you wanted to spend an extra $30, get an overclock model, something a little bit smaller form factor with some RGB on it. I could definitely see why people continue to buy this during Prime Day. Obviously, a lot of people are like, hey, I want the cheapest 9070 XT that's good. But the fact that you have AMD GPUs in the top, what was that, 3 or 4 out of the top 8 here, or top 7, I should say, because we're going to leave out the GPU bracket, including the XFX 9060 XT 16 gigabyte, which had a pretty decent price during Prime Day, not the lowest price. That was Newegg. That's why you saw so many 9060 XTs there. Another 9060 XT gigabyte gaming OC model here. You just see tons of AMD Radeon cards. And of course, we got the 9070 XT Challenger down here. You never used to see this. Absolutely never used to see this. This would be like all NVIDIA all the way. And then AMD cards would start around like 15 or 16. So the fact that they're kind of dominating the top 10 on both Newegg and Amazon is pretty crazy. But is AMD actually catching up in terms of overall market share, or are we just seeing kind of a one-off event because of where GPU prices are right now? Well, if you take a look at the Steam hardware survey, the data that they just released for May 2026 is collected during that period, they actually bug fixed a lot of how they count the GPUs in this survey. Prior to this, a lot of times AMD GPUs would be counted under this kind of generic Radeon GPU banner meant for integrated graphics. If you had an iGPU and a dedicated GPU, it would only count the iGPU. So we are seeing some changes to these numbers, and I just want to quickly go over them. If you look at December 2024, NVIDIA had, basically a 75% market share, AMD 16%, but fast forward a couple months, AMD 11% versus NVIDIA 83%. You think, oh, wow, maybe it is NVIDIA up to 90% of dedicated GPUs, because this does capture some integrated graphics as well. But you look at the most recent data, which has been bug fixed now, at least to a good extent. We'll show that in just a second. 72% now NVIDIA versus 19% for AMD. And actually, if we drill down into the numbers themselves for each of the GPUs, you can see the changes that got made. RTX 3060 here obviously has been the most popular GPU for quite some time. But if we scroll all the way down, you can see the 9070 XT right here suddenly sprang into existence at one of the more popular spots, 1.33%. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but in terms of every GPU that's ever been manufactured and out there in the wild right now, that's pretty impressive. And it didn't exist in any of the previous months. Suddenly it sprang into existence. It's right below the 3080, and it didn't even exist. So that's good that they're now counting that. If you scroll down here, you can see more. The 9060 XT wasn't being counted until last month, basically, or the month that they have data for now in May. Scroll down even a little bit further. What other GPUs weren't being counted? The RX 7600 has been out forever. It hasn't been counted, and now it's 0.48%. And again, we're scrolling down. We see that with the 7900 XT. Wasn't being counted, 0.36%. I use the 7900 XT all the time. That GPU's been out for years and years and years at this point, right? Almost 3-4 years, and it's finally making the list. So I think what it does show is that the list is becoming more accurate. We're getting a more accurate picture of who exactly has what share of the GPU market, and NVIDIA is slipping right now. Now, one of the reasons NVIDIA actually keeps its edge is the pre-built market. Just go out and try yourself, search for an RX 9060 XT gaming PC, either 8GB or 16GB, and search for the corresponding NVIDIA GPUs, either the 5060 on the 8GB side or the 5060 Ti 16GB. You're gonna find tons more models with NVIDIA GPUs out there, and I've been told by pre-built makers that basically, hey, the reason is that NVIDIA GPUs just sell more, even if it's not as good price to performance, because brand matters a lot more for this type of pre-built gaming audience than it does for more tech enthusiast audience. Also, just quick aside here, why would anyone buy a Steam machine right now when you can buy something like this? You can even get better deals than this. I just picked this one at random. For about $1,000, you get a Ryzen 5500. It's not the greatest CPU ever, but it's a 65-watt TDP instead of 30-watt laptop CPU. You get an RTX 5060 desktop edition, not an RX 7600 mobile laptop GPU. 1 terabyte NVMe to it. 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and it's dual channel at that. I mean, what else do you need? This is upgradable in the future. Stick this under your TV and you're good to go. Now, one thing that did stand out to me is AMD's domination in terms of more mainstream graphics cards like the RX 96 XT. There's like 1, 2, 3 right here. The 5060 Ti 16GB, there was only one on either one basically. Kind of leads me to believe that gamers are getting the overall message in terms of value and VRAM for it. And right now, NVIDIA, the cheapest 16 or 12 gig or more card that they have is either the 5070 if it gets back to $599, or the 5060 Ti 16GB sitting at $575 right now, which is crazy to think about when you have almost $400, RX 96 XTs out there right now. So will a RTX 5060 12GB be able to save them? Because I do believe NVIDIA right now is phasing out the 5060 Ti 16GB. That's just my analysis from the market right now, the fact that they're insanely high priced, even though their other cards are starting to kind of filter back down in terms of price. And it does seem like they're going to replace it with a 5060 12GB that's going to be cheaper and roughly kind of almost the same performance. It's going to be slower than the 96 XT. But I think they're going to figure out, we're just going to slap, say, DLSS a whole bunch of times, and people will buy it more than the AMD Radeon cards, because that is the segment I think that they're in a little bit of trouble. So we did get a new rumor that it looks like the RTX 50 Super refresh, they're supposedly waiting for more 3GB chips on that. Benchlife is now saying it's as early as 2027. To me, this rumor right here where it says, however, in our understanding, the GeForce RTX 50 Super Series graphics cards with 3GB GDDR7 memory chips will be released as early as the beginning of 2027, which is CES 2027. That says as early as. I actually think, and if you go back to Mega-Sized GPU's leak, he thought that they might come out in the fall. And I still think that might be a possibility, especially with the 5060 12GB, because NVIDIA, it really has no answer at that segment of the market. So that's our look at GPU market share right now in 2026 for Amazon Prime Day and beyond. Let me know what your thoughts are. I thought it'd be interesting just to take a look at it, given that I was seeing AMD seemingly dominating both the Amazon bestseller GPU list and the Newegg GPU bestseller list at the same time. Yes, we did see it a little bit last year as the 9070 XT kind of first launched. You would expect that around a launch. But now that both products have been out for a while, to see it kind of on a more sustained basis, it's pretty shocking, honestly. And I think it speaks to some extent where NVIDIA is. They're all about AI right now. I think they're going to have some trouble going forward with that. Fingers crossed that that whole AI bubble bursts very soon, because it's holding up all of our hardware as completely price hostage to their AI dreams right now. So fingers crossed that we're going to have better GPU pricing soon. That being said, I did think GPU pricing for Amazon Prime Day was pretty good on the AMD Radeon side, and a couple of NVIDIA cards like a 5070. I'll have more about that in the near future. If you get value out of this video, please give it a like. Of course, subscribe for more cool PC content, and we'll catch you on the next one.